Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja Divedi and this segment will be about Indo-Bangladesh Relations. Now this topic is important from the perspective of prelims as well as from the point of view of GS Mains Paper 2 as well as 3. So let's begin with the topics of discussion that we are going to look at. First of all, we will talk about Y News. Then we will talk about the Liberation War of 1971. We will also talk about the Indo-Bangladesh Relations. We will talk about the challenges, the way forward, and in the midst of the segment, I am going to ask you a pre-based question for which if you know the answer, kindly comment in the comment segment. So let's begin with Y in News. Now, as New Delhi and Dhaka celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Liberation War of 1971, on 16th of December 2020, a 122-member tri-service contingent marched its presence on the Rajpath at the Republic Day of 2021. Now, if we talk about Indo-Bangladesh relation, it goes back to the Liberation War of 1971. So, it was on 3rd of December 1971 when India decided to help Bangladesh in the sense to save Bengali Muslims as well as Hindu, as their culture, their linguistic culture was threatened by Pakistan. So it was on 16th of December when Bangladesh got liberated from the clutches of Pakistan and the Pakistani army surrendered. The army consisted of 93,000 Pakistanis which surrendered because of the Allied forces convergence of Bangladesh as well as India. So if we talk about the Liberation War of 1971, now diplomatic relations were formed after that. India was the very first country to actually acknowledge diplomatic relations with Bangladesh in the year 1971. And that is why 16th December is known as Bijoy Divas. Now, Bijoy Divas means the Vijay Divas if we talk about in Indian or Hindi linguistic terms. So you have to keep this in mind, 16th December. Now, if we talk about the coordination when it comes to defense, it was a very well coordinated defense by the Bangladeshi Army and also by the Indian Army. So if we now come back to the geographical location of Bangladesh, India shares its largest boundary with Bangladesh of approximately 4,100 kilometers. Now, if we talk about the states, the country Bangladesh shares its borders with states West Bengal, Assam, Meghalaya and Tripura. Now, Bangladesh is strategically and geopolitically very significant to India. It's very culturally significant, economically significant, and of course, it is significant in the terms of international relations as well, especially when India was involved in the liberation of Bangladesh. So, if we talk about its capital, it's Dhaka. Moving on, let's talk about the contemporary relations with Bangladesh. It was in the year 1971 after the Liberation War of 1971, India was the first country to establish its diplomatic relationship with Bangladesh. And since then, it has been a very significant relationship. And especially after coming into force or coming into power of the Awami League in the year 1996, the bilateral relations started improving much more. Then comes defense cooperation. Now, as we all know, defense cooperation goes back to the year 1971 itself, from the Liberation War of 1971. And also, we have so many defense cooperation in the field of army. The army bilateral exercise that is known by the name of Sampriti, right? And there is a naval exercise as well that we conduct with Bangladesh. Could you please tell me the name of it in the comment segment? Thank you so much. Moving on to border management. Now, it was in the year 2015 when India-Bangladesh Land Boundary Agreement was signed to properly manage the borders of India, the shared borders of India and Bangladesh. Now, India, because it shares really the longest border with Bangladesh, it needs to be managed very carefully. Strategically, very important the border is, and also when it comes to keeping in check the illegal trafficking of humans and weapons, as well as intoxicants and drugs. That is why this particular agreement is extremely important. Then comes cooperation over rivers. Now, if we talk about rivers, India and Bangladesh, they both share 54 common rivers. That is so unimaginable. 54 common rivers are shared, and a joint river commission has been taking in care of the problems related to river water sharing since the year 1972, in order to have a coordinated approach for India as well as Bangladesh, that they properly utilize the waters in a shared manner, which is dispute free and hassle free. Also, if we talk about economic relations, now India has, if we talk about Bangladesh, Bangladesh is one of the largest trading partners of India in Southeast Asia, and cooperation in power sector as well. Now, Bangladesh is importing approximately 1160 megawatt of power from India. So it's economically very important as well. So we need Bangladesh as a neighbor and as a very significant part of neighborhood first policy, especially when it comes to geopolitical strategic nature. Why? Because India is already has locked horns with China in the recent past, and still it is doing that. And Pakistan has remained an imminent threat since forever. So that is why Bangladesh is geopolitically very important for India. Moving on to the challenges. There are certain challenges. Every relation with every country, almost every country with India, has certain challenges. But we are lucky in the terms, if we talk about Bangladesh, we are lucky with respect to Bangladesh because the challenges are not very fundamental in nature. They are very superficial challenges. So they can be taken care of really easily if diplomatic channels remain open and they're healthy and free-flowing. So first is the Rohingya refugee challenge. Rohingya refugees challenge because Bangladesh remains the largest hub of Rohingya refugees. And also now, if we talk about the crisis that has been going on about or with respect to Rohingya refugees, the problem is that India and Bangladesh share a border. And because of the influx of refugees, they tend to spill over to areas such as Assam and the areas which are closely related to Bangladesh, which share the states which share the border with Bangladesh. They remain open to the threat of huge influx of refugees. So it has remained a challenge. So it needs to be taken care of. Then comes Citizenship Amendment Act and National Register of Citizens. Now, because of the certain comments of the Indian government, as the illegal immigrants were or illegal migrants were termed as termites, it had upset the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. Because of the problems with respect to the illegal migration or illegal immigration, the government termed them as termites. They're feeding on the resources of the people of India. Such terms actually upset her. So that is the second problem we need to take care of because of the border. Now, illegal trafficking of weapons and also illegal trafficking of drugs, this has also remained a problem. So if we talk about the boundary with Bangladesh, it is very thick in nature. Thick in the sense it is thick with such physical features which are at certain times very problematic to actually take care of or strategically take care of. So there is another problem. There is a lot of movement of illegal trafficking of cattle as well. That remains another challenge. River water disputes, Tista River water dispute, there is still not any sort of concrete agreement on that. Then Chinese expansionism. Chinese remains an aggressive expansionist, especially if we talk post-COVID era. If we talk about the post-COVID era, it is trying to rebuild the trust that it has lost. It is actually compensating that with if we talk about its lost image, it is actually trying to compensate it by expanding aggressively and also illegally into the different borders of different countries. So that is also a problem. Now, China and Pakistan influence in the domestic politics of Bangladesh, it has remained a lot, especially with respect to Pakistan. If we talk about Pakistan, is unable to detangle itself with the history of Bangladesh. So because of that continuity of proper intruding into the politics of Bangladesh by Pakistan, that is another challenge. Also, China has remained a very serial intruder, if we talk about, with respect to Nepal, with respect to how it actually took over Tibet, with respect to many other countries which it shares its borders with. It has always tried to intrude into the domestic politics, and also it tries to enslave one country economically, like it has done with many other countries. So that is also another challenge. Moving on, let's talk about the way forward. First of all, we need proper institutions that need to be channelized for cross-border management. This is the first one, because of this particular way forward, we would be able to take care of the illegal immigration, and also right now the Rohingya refugee crisis would also be mitigated a lot. Then cultural commonality, we should always strike at the convergence and not the divergences. India and Bangladesh shares so many commonalities. Their culture has been tied up, their history has been tied up. And if we talk about the Bangla area, the Bangladesh West Bengal area, this has been the epicenter of nationalist movements. So we could actually talk about the commonalities with respect to culture, cuisines, and linguistic culture as well, historical culture. There are so many commonalities. Defense cooperation, especially with respect to Chinese aggression in the South China Sea, and also it is trying to expand aggressively and unilaterally in the Indian Ocean region. So India and Bangladesh should continue to engage with naval exercises and many multilateral naval as well as army exercises. So these are many areas of cooperation India can look at. Cooperation in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, not only defense, because India now should actually overhaul its politics when it comes to international arena. It should not only look at different countries which are smaller when it comes to physical nature or any sort of other arena. It should try to actually throw convergences or come with convergences in the areas which are beyond strategic prism, that is Industrial Revolution, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, metadata, so many things that India can actually capitalize on with respect to Bangladesh. Also, convergence in Rohingya crisis resolution. Now, this is an offshoot of institutional challenges for cross-border management. And now, convergence for the Rohingya refugee crisis, there should be a cross-country department which should be formed in order to actually look at the problems of Rohingyas from the common perspective first, and secondly, to resolve it as soon as possible. This should not be prolonged in order to actually talk about some things that are more long-term in nature and also more fundamental in nature. So these are just superficial if they get mitigated or if they get solved really easily. Now, if we talk about Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, the movement, a cross-country movement agreement. So this should also be given a thrust when it comes to way forward. Also, if we talk about the Haldi-Badi and Chilahati railway link, which was snapped after the Indo-Pakistan War of 1965, it has again regained momentum. This year only, on 4th of January 2021, a news came that the operationalization of Chilahati and Haldi-Badi rail link, this actually could prove very fruitful when it comes to people contact, right? So there are so many convergence areas where Bangladesh and India can work together. So I hope you found this segment informative. I hope we meet next time with another very interesting, informative segment. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.